The story begins with Kano Shotaro's friends seeing him off. They express their worries, saying that he'll be locked up for the next 3 years and won't be able to meet them. A girl, Sakura, remarks that he's only 15 years old. A man who appears to be a family member or mentor, Tekawawa Kitsubai, enthusiastically sends Shotaro off. He yells, asking if he's ready to enter the dorms and learn how to live. With a determined look, Kano Shotaro grips his bag strap and shouts, "See you," to his friends and family, ready to embark on his new journey. As he leaves, Shotaro looks back one last time, his thoughts on Sakura. In the distance, his friends shout his nickname, Sho-chan, waving goodbye. Sakura catches up to him and tells him to bring something with him, handing him a small gift. He opens his hand to reveal a cute teddy bear keychain. Seeing this, his friends start teasing them from behind, calling them lovey-dovey and corny. Sakura gets flustered and tells Shotaro not to cheat on her, especially since he'll be at a co-ed school. Annoyed by her friends' constant laughter, she yells at them to consider her feelings. Meanwhile, Shotaro just laughs it off, telling her not to worry and that he'll be focusing on baseball. Kano Shotaro confidently points forward, telling Sakura to stop worrying. He declares that in 3 years, she'll be the bride of a professional baseball player. He then shoos his teasing friends away. The scene shifts to Shotaro in a car, presumably with his mother. As they drive, she comments that she's glad he was appreciative. Shotaro, however, is lost in his own world, strumming a guitar and singing that his guitar and bat are all the friends he needs, prompting his mother to call him a lazy son. His mother asks if it was really all right for him to dye his hair gray. Shotaro casually replies that he doesn't know and that it will go back to black eventually anyway. The narration shifts to Shotaro's inner monologue. He proudly states that on April 4th he, Kano Shotaro, achieved his longtime goal of joining DL Gakuin's baseball team. The school has a legendary reputation, having produced 80 professional players over the last 25 years and having numerous wins at Koshien. Newspaper clippings highlight the fame of DL Gakuin, known nationwide as the top brand in high school baseball, constantly featured in famous games. Shotaro recalls when his obsession began. It was in the summer of his first year of middle school, while eating shaved ice and watching a game on TV. He was captivated by a 17-inning thriller match between Yokohama High School and his dream school, DL Gakuin. He remembers watching the entire 3-hour and 37-minute battle without moving an inch. From that day on, he decided he had to go to DL Gakuin. He became completely engrossed, singing praises of his eternal school while eating and studying. Shotaro became a DL otaku. He memorized players, imitated their chest grabs, and visualized himself playing for them. His life became a grueling schedule of 7 hours of practice daily, training even on the train. His grandfather could only laugh, calling him love-struck. He focused his efforts on becoming a catcher, a position where only 2 players are recruited each year. To do so, he investigated the tendencies of past DL catchers, determined to become just like them. Of course, this intense focus on baseball came at the expense of his schoolwork, where his test scores were abysmal. But Shotaro didn't care, proclaiming that he was taking an exam in baseball and that studying was for those who needed it. His dedication didn't stop others from doubting him. Some kids told him to give up, suggesting he had a better chance of making it into the idol group NMB 48 than getting into DL. But Shotaro simply told them to shut up and let him be. A year and a half later, as Shotaro walks away, the same kids remark that if he doesn't get into a high school for baseball, he'll have no future. However, Shotaro proved his doubters wrong. Over time with his boys' league team, he hit 36 home runs and had a batting average of .670. He was selected as the captain of the U-15 Japan national team, leading them to the World Championship, and received offers from powerful schools all over the nation. Despite the numerous impressive offers, Shotaro refused them all, leading to a confrontation. A coach or official scolds him, asking what he's thinking and if he has any concern for his mother by refusing such favorable offers. Ignoring the whispers from onlookers who call him nuts for wasting other opportunities, Kano Shotaro remains resolute. As he bikes past, his eyes are fixed on a DL Gakuen pennant, the only goal in his mind. Then, a few days later, the tense wait comes to an end. At home, Shotaro's mother calls out to him. He looks up, a mix of surprise and anticipation on his face, as she begins to deliver the news that will decide his entire future. Continuing from before, Shotaro's mother delivers the good news. DL Gakuen wants him. Overjoyed, Shotaro immediately shouts that they should go buy a new Blu-ray player so he can watch himself play at Koshien in the highest quality, promising to pay for it himself. Now on the road to DL Gakuen, Shotaro looks over the list of other incoming players. He's amazed, recognizing names like the genius leadoff Hanamoto Ryota and Minami Yuya, the star of the World Championship team. He thinks it's a miracle that such a group of monsters has gathered in one place. The list of impressive recruits continues with Hinoki Kenshin, known as Japan's best southpaw and the star of Gion, further hyping up the legendary status of Shotaro's new class. However, despite the overwhelming excitement, Shotaro looks down with a concerned expression, admitting to a nagging feeling in his head as he looks at a card from his friends. It's a large card filled with farewell messages from his graduating class at Aobe Junior High. Messages range from heartfelt goodbyes to playful threats, like Sakura's note saying, "Sho-chan, if you cheat on me, I'll break your legs." Others wish him well, while some jokingly tell him to have fun in hell. As the car continues down a wooded road, Shotaro stares at the ominous but funny messages, a bead of sweat on his face. The scene then shifts to noon in Tondamori City, Osaka, at a traditional Japanese restaurant. Shotaro and his mom enter the restaurant for a farewell meal. With a serious expression, she tells him to eat a lot, ominously calling it his last supper. The restaurant staff looks on, surprised by her statement. His mother refers to the DL Gakuen students as demons wearing school uniforms. Amused, Shotaro smiles and agrees, imagining his new life as a chaotic scene from hell. He pictures a wild dining hall where students devour food like animals, shouting for more rice and fighting over fish and chicken wings. It's a chaotic, exaggerated vision of the competitive environment he's about to enter. The scene jumps to a welcome meal with the new recruits. One of them greets Shotaro as boss. Shotaro then reunites with Hanamoto and asks about Hinoki, who seems to be absent. Hanamoto replies that he doesn't think Hinoki will make it today. As a sock is seen flying through the air and sticking to the wall, Shotaro comments that the others are still arguing about that thing. Another player remarks, "Really? That sucks for him," hinting at some prior incident or conflict. Shotaro cheerfully greets another recruit named Muri. In the background, a very muscular, shirtless teammate flexes and asks, "What's up?" The atmosphere is filled with youthful energy and posturing. The muscular guy, nicknamed Hallstein, continues to show off, claiming he could kill his challenger in 2 seconds. The other boy retorts that he's 100 years too early, creating a tense but comical standoff. The new recruits start boasting, comparing their middle school stats. One asks Minami how many home runs he had, while another brags about his 29 and a third about his 32. The competitive spirit is high as one player laughs and dismisses the boys' league. The friendly banter quickly escalates into a shouting match between players from different leagues. A boy who represented Japan yells at a player from the Geezer League, telling him not to act like a big shot since his team lost to the all-senior team. The bragging continues, with players showing off achievements like being the best 9 in a tournament or winning MVP at the World Championships. The sheer level of talent overwhelms one recruit, who says he can't eat anymore. A small graphic explains the breakdown of players from different middle school baseball leagues. After the meal, Hanamoto Ryota lies on the floor, stuffed, but confidently says that with the great players they have, they'll definitely make it to Koshien. While doing a handstand, Minami Yuya smugly agrees, stating they won't just make it, they'll win both spring and summer consecutively. Shotaro, also doing a handstand, smiles and feels a sense of unity, realizing they're all now at DL Gakuen together. Filled with confidence from the shared ambition of his new teammates, Shotaro declares that for a team like this, simply reaching Koshien is the bare minimum. They can get through all their games undefeated. Shotaro, along with two of his new teammates, rallies the group. He excitedly proclaims that 18 baseball idiots have joined forces and that they will win spring and summer again and again. The boisterous celebration is cut short when a hand slams down on the table. An upperclassman, Nishiki Daizo, coldly tells them to listen up, calling Shotaro a noisy white monkey. The mood instantly shifts from celebratory to tense. The upperclassman's sudden, intimidating interruption shatters Shotaro's idealistic vision. His fantasy of winning with his new dream team clashes with the harsh reality of the rigid hierarchy he's just encountered. After the meal, the recruits leave the restaurant, thanking the staff. Shotaro, seemingly unfazed by the earlier interruption, has a blissful expression, still savoring the feeling of camaraderie with his new team. As they walk to their cars, the other recruits admit that while Shotaro may be annoying, they share his passionate sentiment. He looks on with a quietly emotional expression as his teammates continue their boisterous celebration, united in their shared dream. Watching the recruits from afar are two journalists, high school baseball writer Kuzu Taisei and the Stars of Koshien editor Imoya Soko. Taisei identifies the white-haired guy as the centerpiece of this year's class, Kano Shotaro, and remarks on the impressive group of players they've gathered, though he notes Hinoki's conspicuous absence. The journalists continue to break down the impressive roster. Imoya Soko notes the 10 recruits from the boys' league, with 8 of them from the World Championship team. Kuzu Taisei adds that they also got 7 senior league stars, and even 1 person from softball. Taisei explains that DL Gakuen stuck to their typical scouting approach, focusing on obtaining great players along the center line, pitchers, catchers, and infielders. A chart displays the positions of all the new first years, making it clear that the competition for their preferred spots will be fierce. The two journalists look on with anticipation. Now that these stars are high school baseball players, they wonder how this new generation will change the course of history. Meanwhile, the new recruits are already singing the school's song, full of hope and ambition. But a narrator's voice adds an ominous condition to their dreams of glory. They can only achieve it if they can survive the infamous dormitory life. The scene shifts to 2 p.m. as a bus arrives at the DL Gakuen Moonlight dormitory. The new recruits and their families gather outside the traditional, imposing building, ready for their first introduction. A man in a suit steps forward to greet them. He introduces himself as the baseball manager, Tekawawa Kitsubai, and an infographic explains that his role is to organize games and schedules, not to coach players directly. Manager Tekawawa begins the tour by informing the recruits that this will be their home for the next 3 years. The reality of their commitment begins to set in as he explains they can only go home for winter vacation and specified outing days. He shows them a map of the expansive Moonlight dormitory, pointing out facilities like the laundry, dining hall, and practice field. He boasts that although the buildings are over 100 years old, they remain in perfect condition. The recruits look around in awe. The tour continues, and the recruits are shown the numerous victory flags from DL Gakuen's past championships. Kano Shotaro stares at them with a look of intense determination, vowing that 2 years from now, he'll be the one to bring another one home. Lost in his ambition, Shotaro pictures himself proudly holding the championship pennant, leading his team in a victory parade. A confident smile spreads across his face as he imagines his dream becoming a reality. Manager Tekawawa then leads the group to what he calls a special place, the meditation hall. He explains that this is where the heart and soul of the DL Gakuen Baseball Club resides. Inside the meditation hall, Tekawawa leads the recruits and their families up a wooden staircase, announcing that there is something important he wants to show them. The parents and recruits look on with curiosity and confusion. The manager approaches a large sliding door at the end of the hall, telling them that the view from here is superb. With a dramatic flourish, he slides open the doors to reveal a magnificent, state-of-the-art training ground. The recruits, especially Shotaro, are left breathless and in absolute awe of the facility. Among the crowd is another new recruit, Marui Yuhei, who is so excited he can barely contain himself. His mother, however, looks on with a worried expression, whispering her son's name. Marui's mother leans in and tells him that she's heard some crazy rumors about DL. Her words immediately deflate his excitement, replacing it with shock and confusion. As the group stands on the veranda, Marui's mother feels her phone buzz in her handbag. Her son glances over at her, his face now etched with anxiety. She pulls out her phone to see a message from someone named Tanaka-san. The message confirms her fears, speaking of rumors about violence at DL and offering help if her son is considering transferring out. A sinister-looking eye appears in the background, amplifying the sudden sense of dread. As she's processing the disturbing text message, her eyes land on something horrifying carved into a nearby wooden pillar. The words, "I want Tio, go home." She covers her mouth in shock, realizing she has to protect her son. Just as manager Tekawawa is concluding the tour, Marui's mother interrupts him, her voice trembling as she calls out, "Please wait, sensei." She hesitates, worried that bringing this up will crush her son's spirit. Tekawawa turns back to the group with a placid smile, asking what the matter is. Stealing her resolve, Marui's mother steps forward and asks the question that's been weighing on her mind. Is it true that DL often hazes its players? Her question captures the attention of everyone, including a serious-looking Shotaro. Instead of answering directly, manager Tekawawa puts on a brilliant smile and, with images of celebrating players behind him, gives a loud, cheerful welcome to DL Gakuen. The recruits erupt in cheers, but the question hangs in the air, unanswered. Undeterred by the manager's evasive response, Marui's mother pursues him as the group walks on. She is determined to get a straight answer about the hazing, calling out to him once more. She confronts him again, her face beaded with sweat as she repeats her question. Is it true that DL often hazes its players? This time, Tekawawa's cheerful facade drops, replaced by a dark, serious expression as he glares at her. Another parent tries to intervene, pulling Marui's mother back and telling her to stop as manager Tekawawa looks on from the shadows. The other parents and recruits are taken aback by the confrontation. Marui is mortified, begging his mom to stop. Shotaro, however, smirks and labels her a monster parent, while another recruit cynically asks what she's even talking about. Marui's mother apologizes for her suddenness but stands her ground, saying that as a parent, she can't help but worry about the bad rumors. Tekawawa finally laughs, dismissing her concerns by saying that a poor reputation is simply the fate of successful teams. Wiping sweat from his brow, Tekawawa tries to change the subject by commenting on the heat. He then offers a non-committal answer, admitting that dorm life is tough, but framing it as a necessary step for developing independence. The recruits notice he seems flustered. Marui's mother isn't having it. She interrupts him and directly asks if there's corporal punishment, stating that former students always say their baseball lives were ruined by violence. Tekawawa counters, saying that many former students also claim they wouldn't be successful without the dorm life. Marui's mother fires back that they're just glorifying the past and that parents must guide their children. Tekawawa sternly replies that guidance and intervention are not the same thing. The tense atmosphere is palpable. Tekawawa attempts to end the conversation by reassuring the mother that DL Gakuen is a club with a storied tradition, not a prison. Shotaro watches the exchange, thinking to himself that they'll need to talk to the guy with the glasses later. Finally, at 2 in the afternoon, it's announced that it's time for the parents to leave. The emotional farewells begin with parents and sons saying their goodbyes. Shotaro feels a sudden tightness in his chest. Shotaro's mother playfully teases him, asking if he's going to cry from how much he'll miss her. He looks down, unable to meet her gaze, knowing that if he does, the tears will start to flow. As she gets ready to leave, Shotaro's mom jokes about their food expenses going down, but gives him some heartfelt advice. If it gets tough, just laugh and you'll find a way through. Turn your pain into laughter. With her final words, "Be bold, Shotaro. Make it to Koshien." She walks away, wiping a tear from her own eye. Overwhelmed with emotion, Shotaro can no longer hold back and begins to cry. Meanwhile, Marui's mother urges him to leave with her, calling the place dangerous. But Marui refuses, saying it would be too embarrassing to quit on the first day and that he'll try his best for now. She tries to persuade him, reminding him that there are other high schools that want him and more than one path to becoming a professional. They stand near a massive, imposing tree that seems to symbolize the daunting challenge ahead. The scene shifts to the recruits' new dorm room. They've all changed into identical black tracksuits. One recruit complains that it smells like potatoes, while Shotaro Riley compares the uniform to a prisoner's. An info panel details the incredibly strict dress code for the first 2 years. While one recruit cheers about being a crow in his new black uniform, Marui is so startled he spits out his drink. One of his new roommates, Hanamoto, asks if he's okay, noticing how pale he looks. The other boys start to lightly tease Marui for being so quiet, with one jokingly threatening to take his glasses. Marui just sits miserably on his bed, muttering that he's fine. Shotaro joins in on the teasing, calling out to Marui by his title of Fall's Best Nine and sarcastically asking if the excitement made him sick. He smirks, noting how sad his new roommate seems. Later that evening, at 6:30 p.m., Manager Tekawawa gathers the recruits in front of the dorm. He announces that because dorm life requires rules, he will now introduce the second-year students who will explain them. 2 intimidating upperclassmen step forward. Tekawawa introduces them as the first year's designated mentors. Shotaro and the others look on with apprehension. Shotaro recognizes the 2 mentors as second-year players who were on the bench during the Senbatsu tournament, meaning they have experience at the highest level of high school baseball, Koshien. The first mentor, Nagano Takahiro, introduces himself with a bizarre, cheesy grin, shouting, "Nice to meet you, Ayasu." Shotaro is completely bewildered by the strange greeting. The second mentor, Nishiki Daizo, gives a cold, intimidating glare and introduces himself simply with 4649. The recruits stand rigidly at attention, clearly terrified of the 2 upperclassmen. The scene shifts to the white room inside the dorm. Info panels explain the roles of the mentors and Nagano's weird greeting. The mentors are already yelling at the freshmen for their weak response, demanding they enunciate "yes, sir" properly. The mentors begin to lay out the dormitory rules from a notebook. They yell at the recruits to pay attention, their faces stern and menacing. Shotaro and Marui listen with grim expressions. Nagano points a finger at the freshmen, shouting that now that they're in the dorm, they must follow the rules. He warns them that breaking the rules will lead to painful consequences and that no one will show them any sympathy. One of the recruits, Aburu, recognizes Nagano from his boys' league days and is stunned by the transformation. He recalls Nagano being as sweet as strawberry milk a year ago and wonders what happened. Just then, Nagano singles out Shotaro from the group, calling out the you with the dyed gray hair. Shotaro answers, "What is it?" This simple response sends Nagano into a rage. He lunges forward, screaming at Shotaro for speaking out of turn and demanding he zip his tracksuit all the way up, comparing him to a disliked celebrity. Exasperated, Nagano shouts that he's tired of the stupidity and dramatically passes the duty to Nishiki. As he walks past his teammates, he whispers an insult, comparing Shotaro to a white marimo, a fuzzy ball of algae. Shotaro silently thinks what a pain all the lecturing is. Nishiki takes his place and announces that he will now tell them about the ironclad code of the DL Gakuen Baseball Club, specifically the 3 articles. With a menacing glare, Nishiki declares that those who cannot follow these rules are not qualified to play baseball for DL Gakuen. The threat hangs heavy in the air. The recruits are speechless. Shotaro and Marui can only stare in disbelief at the mention of an ironclad code. A dusty scroll appears, symbolizing the ancient and unyielding nature of the rules they are about to learn. A smirk appears on Shotaro's face as he thinks back to his days as a DL Gakuen superfan. He readies his pen, sarcastically telling himself to drill this into his brain. The other freshmen get ready to take notes, their faces tense. Nishiki reveals the first 3 articles of the code, shouting, "No lying, no fighting, no backtalk." The seemingly simple rules shock the freshmen with their severity. The 4th rule strikes Shotaro like a lightning bolt. No dating. He immediately panics. Realizing this means he'll have to break up with Sakura. His dream of playing for DL Gakuen is suddenly in direct conflict with his promise to her. As Shotaro reels from the no-dating rule, the mentors continue to shout out an increasingly absurd list of regulations. No private conversations, only use the left-side bathrooms, and no looking at women. The next rule, no laughing, hits Shotaro hard as he recalls his mother's final words of advice. He looks down, despondent, realizing the impossibility of turning his pain into laughter in such an environment. Another rule requires them to write a daily entry in a notebook. Shotaro stares in disbelief at the long, detailed scroll of rules. It dictates every aspect of their lives, from only being allowed water between certain hours to how they must sit and how to thank seniors for food. He reads the ridiculously detailed rules, such as not showing your teeth when you laugh. He can't help but wonder what any of this has to do with baseball. Just as he's about to despair, Shotaro remembers his mother's words. "Turn your pain into laughter, Shotaro." A sad, determined smile forms on his face as he resolves to endure whatever comes his way. The endless list of prohibitions is too much for Marui. Sweating and trembling, he grips his head and exclaims, "Isn't this unreasonable?" An upperclassman shouts, "All right, look up uglies." The terrified freshmen, including Marui, immediately look up from their notebooks, bracing for what's next. Nagano points towards the door, announcing that their indoctrination is not over. He commands them to follow what they were taught, even if it kills you, because now they are going to meet the 3rd years. With menacing faces, Nagano and Nishiki deliver one last threat, screaming that if the freshmen don't obey, they will meet their end. The chapter closes on the horrified faces of Shotaro and Marui, who now understand the true, oppressive nature of their dream school. The new recruits at the prestigious DL Gakuen are immediately introduced to the school's harsh reality. Kano Shotaro, a hopeful first year, stares at the list of bizarre rules. No ling, no baktao, no fighting, no dating. He thinks to himself that these have nothing to do with baseball, but he knows that to play here, he must obey the ironclad code. A senior screams at the freshmen, telling them to get up and that they must obey the rules, even if it kills them. Beside him, Marui, a nervous-looking first year with glasses, trembles as he takes notes. The same senior orders the new recruits to follow him in a single file line to meet the 3rd years. The intimidated first years can only respond with a weak, "Yes, sir." As the freshmen are led across a wooden walkway towards a traditional building, Kano looks back with a worried expression, the gravity of his new life beginning to sink in. At 8 p.m., the first years are gathered inside the Moonlight Dormitory's meditation hall. They sit in neat rows, facing the seated 3rd-year seniors. Suddenly, the door slides open with a sharp sound, grabbing everyone's attention. A 2nd-year student, Nagano, enters with a deep bow, announcing his arrival. Kano and the other freshmen are shocked, wondering why he isn't using a more formal greeting for the 3rd years. A senior ominously tells him to come in, a baseball bat resting nearby. A 3rd year addresses Nagano, calling him relentless and asking if seeing the new first years reminds him of his own arrival. The seniors look down on the freshmen with an intimidating air. An info panel explains that 3rd years are the only ones allowed to wear their own clothes in the dormitory, sorted into indifferent, casual, and fashionable styles. The more fashionable they are, the more they're admired. A senior smirks, saying "Yes, sir," mockingly. The time for the first year's introductions begins. Kano and Marui stand nervously. Marui is terrified, thinking that he'll get stomped if he messes up. A senior points at a student, telling him, "Hey, Hanamoto, you go first." The student, Hanamoto Ryota, confidently introduces himself as a shortstop from Fukakusa Stones, looking forward to playing with everyone. One of the seniors sitting with a cigarette recognizes him as one of his juniors for Boys League. Hinamoto's confident introduction is met with murmurs of approval and slight applause from the upperclassmen, who comment on his good ears. He seems to have made a good first impression. Next up is Kano, referred to as Silverhead. Another info panel explains the ranking among first years. Kano is the solest ranked scholarship student, exempt from all fees. The others are ranked for partial exemptions or general. A senior quietly tells him to be cheerful. With a powerful shout that echoes through the hall, Kano introduces himself. My name is Kano Shotaro, and I played for Tennoji Blues. My position is catcher. I look forward to playing with you all. The seniors are taken aback by his volume. So loud? We can hear you fine from here, one comments, while another asks if he's a cicada. A senior then asks him a direct question. How many homers did you hit in middle school? This is a test, as the rules forbid answering. Kano freezes. He remembers the rule. I can't enter into a conversation. But a senior with a menacing grin leans in and says, it doesn't matter, just speak. Caught in a trap, Kano desperately wonders what to do and looks to Nagano for help. Meanwhile, the other seniors grow impatient, wondering what's wrong with him and telling him to get on with it. Finally, Kano answers, 36. The seniors are stunned into silence for a moment before erupting. Is he exaggerating? One asks. Another points and laughs. Oh, that's not shabby, while a third makes a crude joke about his white hair. The hazing continues as a senior mockingly asks if Kano's ass hair is white too. Another shouts at him. Were you listening, idiot? What you think, moron? Kano is cornered, forced to react. Remembering the no laughing rule too late, Kano lets out a forced, awkward laugh. He immediately realizes his mistake. Kano's awkward laugh is met with a terrifying, silent glare from the seniors, whose faces contort into demonic shadows. From outside, one of the head seniors observes the scene, calling out to his mentors. Two of the most intimidating third years watch from the doorway. One of them, with a large metal collar, questions if the Moonlight Dormitory is turning into a paradise this year, implying the first years are getting off too easy. The collared senior confronts a bald senior, Fujimaki, demanding to know what he's been teaching the new recruits and calling him scum. In the background, Kano and Marui watch in fear, wondering if they're safe. The bald senior, Fujimaki, sits down before the first years. He calmly says he'll tell them what's what, acknowledging that he's heard this year's class is pretty good. He continues his speech, noting that he's heard the same praise about the current third and second years before them. Looking at the calligraphy on the wall that reads, "The path of baseball is the path of man," he declares that they are all poster children of baseball. Bringing his point home, Fujimaki tells the freshmen that their future is in their own hands. I want you to be ambitious and follow the path you've chosen, he states, emphasizing that whether they fulfill their immense talent is entirely up to them. The bald senior, Fujimaki, continues his speech with an imposing presence, with Mount Fuji in the background. He tells the first years that they have now arrived at the pinnacle of high school baseball. A group photo of the DL Gakuen team is shown, a formal welcome to the new recruits into this legendary institution. The senior identifies himself as the third-year captain, Karasuma Gaku. He admits that they only came in second at the recent Senbatsu tournament, but states calmly that he has no regrets about it, because he declares they will be sure to carry the victory flag this summer. He asks the freshmen to lend them their strength for that goal. Kano Shotaro looks on, his spirit ignited by the captain's words. Later, at 9 p.m. in the white room of the dormitory, Hinamoto tells Kano he thought he was done for when he laughed during the introductions. Kano, however, breathes a sigh of relief, thinking to himself that even with an ironclad code, there are ways to get around it. But Kano celebrated too soon. A senior bursts in, furious. He screams that he told them to follow the rules even if it kills them, and that Kano's failure will get his mentors in trouble. Another senior mocks the situation with a wild pose. A senior explains that for the next 4 days, the freshmen have a grace period where minor rule-breaking will be tolerated. He condescendingly tells them to use their 1 kilobyte size brains to retain everything the second year show them. The second year Nagano proclaims that in 4 days, they'll truly become first-year DL students, specifically calling out the senior Ayasu. Ayasu smirks, adding that on top of learning difficult chores, they will also have lectures. He then turns his attention to a terrified Marui, calling him Pale Piggy and telling him he'd better start showing some respect. Ayasu gets right in Marui's face, his expression menacing. "You're not going to disrespect me, are you?" he snarls. Marui, petrified, can only think I've been seen. As he stammers, "No, sir." The night wears on. The clock shows 2:30 a.m. In the dorm room, the freshmen are finally asleep in their bunk beds, but for some, the terror is just beginning. Marui is trapped in a nightmare. He recalls his mother worrying, asking if it's true that DL often hazes its players. But he pushes the thought away, remembering how cool the third years looked during the Senbatsu tournament. His dream shifts to the hallowed grounds of Koshien Stadium, the ultimate goal for every high school baseball player. He wonders what the dirt of Koshien smells like. The dream sours into a full-blown nightmare. He's back in the dorm, and his own face is twisted in horror. He remembers telling another student, "This place is too dangerous. I saw it. After our introduction to the third years, when I went to the bathroom, I saw it." The horrifying image he witnessed flashes in his mind, a senior brutally kicking another student in the hallway. Marui trembles, asking if it hurt, to which the victim replies yes. Marui's sleeping face is contorted in fear as he recalls a senior shouting that their 4-day grace period will soon be over. He realizes with horror that because Kano laughed, their mentor, second-year Nagano, was punished for it. Wide awake in his nightmare, Marui panics about what will happen when the 4 days are up. He hallucinates a man in a suit telling him that if he goes to DL, he'll be messed up while Kano sleeps peacefully nearby, a small teddy bear by his pillow. Marui's nightmare contrasts his own fear with a dream of Kano's success. He imagines Kano hitting a walk-off grand slam, hailed as the platinum-haired hero. But this heroic image is invaded by shadowy figures warning him about the rumors of DL's hazing. The nightmare presents a terrifying duality. On one side, Kano stands proudly holding the DL Gakuin flag, a symbol of glory. On the other, a student is bound tightly with ropes, a victim of the school's violent traditions. Marui sees two potential futures, one of heroism and one of torture. The warnings echo in his head. Those who don't follow the ironclad code cannot play for DL. He sees news headlines about violence in high school baseball and knows that breaking rules leads to painful consequences. He tells himself he won't be able to function if he keeps having these fantasies. Kano suddenly wakes up in the dark dorm room. He looks over to Marui's bunk and finds it empty. On the floor beside the bed, he sees Marui's glasses left behind. Panicked and clutching his pillow, Marui flees the dormitory, running desperately into the moonlit woods, tears streaming down his face as he asks, "Where'd you go?" Back in the room, Kano reaches for the abandoned glasses. He confirms that Marui's pillow is gone, but he left his glasses. The situation feels ominous. Another first year, Hanamoto, is completely oblivious to the gravity of the situation. He jokes that Marui always looks nervous and must have gotten nauseous from the excitement of being at his dream school. With a grin, he suggests to his roommates that they should go scare the crap out of him. A DL Walker guide illustrates the strict etiquette of the shared dorm rooms. Third years get wooden dressers with signatures, while lower years get aluminum lockers. Rules dictate climbing bunk ladders and moving about quietly to avoid waking upperclassmen. The rooms are shared by 6 people and cleaned twice a day. Meanwhile, Hanamoto and the other roommates look for Marui. Hanamoto checks the bathroom, flipping on the light, but it's empty. Another student idly practices his swing, unaware of the unfolding drama. Looking out the window, Hanamoto spots a figure running away from the dorms. He realizes it's Marui and wonders where on earth he's going. Marui runs for his life, his mind consumed by terror. "Run away," he thinks, "I'll be killed." As he flees, he remembers how their senior, Nagano, was beaten just because Kano laughed. The injustice is too much. "I can't live in DL," he concludes. His panic intensifies as he imagines even worse punishment for actual baseball mistakes. That was for laughing. What if I did something worse? What if I struck out? Or made an error? The image of the brutal kick flashes in his mind. His thoughts spiral, recalling headlines about excessive abuse and warnings that he'd be hazed. He cries out in his mind, "I'm only 15 years old. I don't want to die." From the dorm window, Hanamoto, still thinking this is about a bathroom emergency, yells out, "Marui, the bathroom is in the dorm." He waves, completely misreading the situation. Kano and Hanamoto chase after Marui. Marui is shocked at their speed. They finally catch up, and a concerned Hanamoto asks, "Hey Marui, you're sick, right? Are you okay?" Marui, his face a mask of desperation, screams, "I'm going home." Hanamoto, still hilariously mistaken, yells back, "You're going to hold it in for that long?" Even as Kano calls him a beast. The chase continues down a dimly lit path into the woods. The scene then cuts to a mysterious shovel stuck in the ground next to a pile of freshly disturbed leaves. Deep in the woods, a figure with long hair tied back stands exhausted. This is Teikwaka Kitsubi, the team manager, who has just finished burying something for Kano. A close-up shows their weary but determined eyes. A flashback reveals the reason for Teikwaka's secret task. Before moving into the dorm, Kano had begged them to bury his guitar. Teikwaka had looked on, exasperated, as Kano pleaded. In the flashback, Teikwaka reviews the strict inventory list for DL Gakuen, which forbids all non-baseball items. However, a handwritten note says Kano guitar okay. Teikwaka sighs, "I can't believe I'm helping him break the rules. I'm a stupid parent," they think, agreeing to help as long as they don't get found out. Back in the present, Teikwaka waits in a pickup truck, noting it's already 3 a.m. A DL Walker guide details the long list of banned items, including phones, music devices, manga, and games. Suddenly, Teikwaka spots the commotion on the street. It's Kano chasing Marui. "Es Chotaro." Teikwaka yells, wondering what on earth that idiot is doing now. Kano finally has a hold of Marui, who struggles to get away. Kano tries to reason with him, telling him he forgot his glasses, but Marui just wants to be left alone. Marui shoves Kano's hand away, knocking the glasses to the ground. "Shut up. I'm quitting," he declares. Kano, confused, asks why he's going home on the very first day. "I'll be dead here before I even get to play baseball." Marui explains frantically. Kano, still not understanding the depth of his fear, simply asks, "How?" Teikwaka watches the tense exchange from a distance. Marui explodes at Kano's simple question. "What do you mean, how? If you stay at DL, your life will be over." But Kano just laughs, thinking he's exaggerating, which only infuriates Marui more. Marui confronts him. "Why did you laugh in front of the third years? They told us not to laugh." Kano, rubbing his nose, casually apologizes. "My bad. But how could you not laugh when they asked if my ass hair was white?" Kano grins, dismissing Marui's terror. "No way. What are you so scared of, Humpty Dumpty?" Marui, however, is dead serious. "Because of you, Nagano-san, they'll hurt you. You won't be able to play baseball." Marui's fear pours out as he relives the oppressive rules. No lying, no backtalk, no laughing. He tells Kano the reason for these rules isn't discipline. It's so they have an excuse to make you unable to play. "I saw him get beat up." He trails off. Kano remains unconvinced, tapping his temple. "Well, it's hard to find a strong school that isn't strict." Marui, clutching his pillow, looks back at him with despair. "Aren't we here to play baseball?" Marui finally breaks. "This isn't strict," he yells, his voice echoing in the empty street. "This is unreasonable." He reminds Kano of the dark stories they've both surely heard about the school. As Marui speaks, his mind is flooded with all the horrific rumors about DL. Hazing, sodomy with a carrot, forced to eat bugs, drowned in the bathhouse, forced to drink mud, spanked with a baseball bat, broken teeth, and being wrapped in a futon and beaten. Marui thinks back on DL Gakuen's shining reputation. It's one of the best in Japan, a pipeline for professional stars. But he knows the truth now. That was just a facade. He thinks, The rumors were right. From his truck, Taekwaka watches, wondering what could have happened in just a few hours to cause this. Marui tells Kano that DL is a place reserved for the strong, a place where the weak can't survive. I can't do it, he says, turning away. I can't live like a prisoner. Kano tries to reason with him. Looking up at the moon, he points out that generations of students, including all the upperclassmen and alumni, have followed the ironclad code. He agrees that it's weird, but insists there must be a reason the rules are still in place. Kano suggests the strictness might be part of what makes DL so strong, like a challenge to make them better. So don't give up now. Let's do our best, he says with naive optimism. Marui glares back, disgusted. Are you saying that violence makes you better at baseball? The argument heats up. Kano insists there's no need to go home on the first day, but Marui screams that he's crazy and refuses to go back. Kano calls him stubborn, arguing that getting knocked around is worth it if they can make it to Koshien. Marui finally snaps. Huh, are you crazy? He screams. You're one of them. It's people like you that make these bad practices carry on. Baseball is all you got, after all, because you have no brains at all. From the truck, Taekwaka pleads for Shotaro to stay calm. Kano's face hardens. You're a little nearsighted, aren't you? He says coldly. But even with your glasses, you can't see reality, moron. Marui fires back that if they get beaten, they'll never make it to Koshien or Go Pro, and that there are people who've been hazed out of the school. Taekwaka winces, as if pained by the truth in those words. With a smirk, Marui sarcastically tells Kano to do whatever he wants, calling him the captain of Japan. He declares he doesn't care what Kano thinks, that it's none of his business. Kano's expression becomes unreadable. Instead of getting angry, Kano breaks into a grin and lunges at Marui, pinching his cheeks. Marui yells for him to let go, completely thrown off by the unexpected, childish attack. During the scuffle, Marui drops his pillow and glasses. He falls to the ground, stunned, as Kano stands over him. Marui puts his glasses back on. Kano tries a different approach, appealing to their shared ambition. Why quit DL when you get to play baseball with the best? He lists them out. Himself, the genius, the fleet-footed Hanamoto, the hardest-throwing pitcher, Hinoki. He then looks at Marui and trails off, and, Marui, you are. Marui cuts him off, yelling that he's not like the others. He's not a true first baseman who can sacrifice his body for the team. I'm not a first baseman. I play shortstop. I've never played first base ever. Kano asks, so, you were picked in a selection? Marui looks away, sweat beading on his face as he delivers a shocking confession. I wasn't recruited to DL. Marui clarifies that DL doesn't hold selections. No, DL doesn't do that. What I'm talking about is a business expense. Kano watches confused as Marui begins to explain the dark truth of his recruitment. He explains that he played for the Toyomori Eagles, a team with a strong relationship with DL. Over 30 players from his former team have gone on to DL. He mentions that 2 of his own seniors went, but both ended up transferring to a school in Kyushu. Kano asks if those seniors were the same age as the current third years, and Marui confirms it. He says Toyomori and DL are business partners. Kano looks surprised, admitting, You haven't heard of me, right, Kano? I've never heard of you before now. The fact that Kano has never heard of him clearly stings. Marui bitterly recounts shaking hands with a player named Amagai before a tournament final, but Amagai has completely forgotten him. That pisses me off, he thinks. Kano, however, remembers Amagai perfectly. Yeah, he is that big-time slugger a year younger than us. The scouts must be all over him, he says excitedly. Marui notes bitterly to himself that Kano's memory of the talented Amagai is flawless. Marui explains the situation. There was a bidding war for the prodigy Amagai, and DL Gakuen was one of the suitors. He says he has Amagai to thank, because his old coach made DL an offer they couldn't refuse. I'll let you get Amagai if you take Marui, too. Kano is speechless. Marui explains that DL took the deal, accepting they'd have to take a worse player because getting Amagai was worth it. For the Toyomori Eagles, it was a PR win, sending players to the prestigious DL for 2 years in a row. Tears welling up, Marui delivers the final, devastating blow. DL didn't want me. They only wanted Amagai. I'm just the bartered piece. As Marui breaks down, his face a mess of tears and snot, Kano quietly asks, "But didn't you want to join DL?" "Of course I did." Marui screams through his tears. "I went to all of DL's games. I practiced every day like I'd die if I didn't. I love DL as much as anyone." "But," Marui declares, wiping his face with a newfound resolve, "that changed today." He turns his back on Kano, the decision made. Taekwaka watches from afar, his expression somber. Marui runs off along the train tracks. "I won't go into hell half-cocked and be destroyed." He screams that he doesn't even like baseball anymore. He wants to drink water and laugh. He fantasizes about a normal life, getting a haircut, being a hit with the ladies, and going to a different school. Kano calls out to Marui's retreating figure. "Marui, don't act like you're alone in this." As Marui scrambles over a fence, Kano adds, "You don't know what it's like to be weak. You look down on me." Kano continues his passionate plea. "You're not the only one with struggles at DL. I've been through a ton of shit before getting here, but I still want to be at DL." He asks what could possibly be stronger than the will of 18 unified players, and Marui can only listen, tears still streaming down his face. Kano looks at an imaginary lineup of his smiling teammates, including Marui, and declares his deepest motivation. "I want to play baseball with all you guys." He makes a vow to his friend. "If you're crying, I'll lend you a handkerchief. If you break your leg, I'll give you my shoulder. No matter what happens, we're all in this together. I want all 18 of us to make it to Koshien together." Marui seems moved by Kano's words. He clutches his pillow and quietly says, "Marui, let's work hard together." But as he says this, a train passes, symbolizing his imminent departure. The decision has already been made. A relieved Kano smiles warmly. "I'll protect you, so don't worry. We'll take care of each other," he says, believing he's won his friend back. "Come on, let's go back to the dorm." But Marui's face tells a different story. His expression is one of deep sadness and finality. His resolve to leave is unshaken. In a sudden move, Marui throws his pillow at Kano as a distraction and makes a final dash for it. He runs past Taekwaka's truck and disappears down the street. As he runs, something small falls to the ground, unnoticed by him but seen by Kano. Kano stares down the empty street. "He's gone," he says quietly. He squats down to pick up the fallen object. In the background, Taekwaka finally lights his cigarette, having witnessed the entire painful exchange. Kano examines the object. It's a small, laminated charm. Inside is a handwritten note from someone named Yuko. "I'm so happy you made it to DL and Ichon. Your dream came true. Hit a homer at Koshien." A personal, heartfelt reminder of the dreams that brought him here. Clutching the charm, Kano looks at Marui's retreating figure one last time. He whispers his name, "Marui, come back." But his friend is gone, leaving Kano alone on the dark road, now burdened with a terrible new understanding of the place he once idealized. The scene opens at 6:30 a.m. in the Moonlight Dormitory. It's the second day of the grace period, with only 3 days left. A student notices the discrepancy in their numbers, questioning why there are only 14 first years present when there should be 18. Another chimes in, specifically asking about the whereabouts of the marshmallow face guy with glasses, while someone else mentions that Hinoki is expected to arrive later. Disregarding the missing members, one of the boys rallies the group to go eat. As the others head out, a lone figure is left behind, silently contemplating the situation. Meanwhile, some of the recruits are already engaging in petty squabbles. One teases another about a cute girl in a fan letter, which is quickly dismissed. The taunts continue, with others mocking a player for his lack of popularity despite being a starter at Senbatsu, and another lamenting that his ancient face doesn't appeal to modern women. The lone boy from before observes, noting their complete lack of concern. The conversation shifts as one boy asks about Marui's whereabouts. His friend cryptically replies, "I'll tell you later." The scene then focuses on a hand holding a small, box-like object, hinting at a deeper story. The story shifts to the main gate of DL Gakuen. A man in a suit expresses his gratitude, saying he never dreamed his son would decide to come here, even though he's a day late. Two boys are seen bowing respectfully. A close-up reveals the man's identity. Hinoki Kasumi, the 52nd captain of DL Gakuen and a legendary former pitcher. He mentions that while Gion Gakuen wasn't pleased, he is proud that his son is entering his own alma mater. Hinoki Kasumi explains the fallout from his son's decision. Because his son was stubborn and chose DL, despite Gion Gakuen's persistent attempts to recruit him, the long-standing relationship between the boys' league team and Gion Gakuen has been severed. He continues, revealing that his son has been expelled from the Gion Boys Alumni Association. A flashback shows his son declaring that he's not going to follow in his father's footsteps, instead asking to be allowed to go to DL. The scene flashes to a chaotic moment, a room in disarray. A voice cries out, "What the hell happened?" suggesting a traumatic event that may have influenced the son's decision. Back in the present, two boys have found a secluded spot in the moonlight dormitory sound forest. Having gone far enough to speak freely, one of them finally asks the pressing question, "Why did Marui leave?" The other boy explains that he tried to convince Marui to stay, but Marui wasn't confident he could survive at DL. His friend, however, believes Marui will return, convinced that the tears he shed were genuine. He adds that Marui's expression wasn't one of someone who had given up. Suddenly, a sound cuts through the air, and they look up in shock as a small object falls from above. Their faces are a picture of surprise as they spot something, or someone, in the distance. A hand flicks something small towards them. A new figure appears, holding what looks like unlit candles. It's Hinoki. He casually looks down at the two boys, remarking, "I thought you guys were a pair of monkeys." The two boys greet him enthusiastically, saying, "The heroes are always late, aren't they? We've been waiting for you." Hinoki, identified as Hinoki Kenshur, the national team ace from Gion Blackies, tells them not to get carried away, reminding them that they can't play baseball without their number one. Hinoki greets his friends, calling one Hana-chan and asking the other, Kano, if he's gotten taller. He then walks off with Kano, arm around his shoulder, reminding Hana-chan that sweets are banned. As the three of them stand together, Kano asks Hinoki what they're doing here. Hinoki simply tells him to listen, saying that yesterday was crazy. The trio sits down, and Hinoki brings up Marui, identifying him as the switch batter. He remarks on Marui's speed and skill as a shortstop, calling his departure a waste. The other two are surprised that Hinoki knows about him. Kano coldly suggests they forget about that coward, but the blonde-haired boy disagrees. Hinoki then gives his perspective, stating that Marui came to DL because he loved it and possessed just as much desire as any of them, regardless of any difference in ability. The scene cuts to another student, the one with glasses, who silently wonders if the second years are deliberately trying to weed out the weak-willed. The blonde boy continues, suggesting that the seniors are anal about enforcing an ironclad code that has nothing to do with baseball. Hinoki argues that in the end, Marui ran away because he couldn't handle it, asserting that DL is not a school for the weak-willed. Kano challenges him, asking if that means Marui doesn't deserve to play for DL, suggesting he should join a school more suited to his level. The blonde boy argues back, pointing out that even if Marui is a loser now, he could become a better player in 2 years and might even be able to get a hit off of Hinoki. Hinoki dismisses the argument as pointless. Kano gets heated, questioning Hinoki's big shot attitude after showing up a day late. Hinoki retorts that Kano has watched too much Neto Koshien and that he doesn't think Kano and his friend are all that great either. Hinoki then launches into a cynical monologue, shattering the romanticized image of high school baseball. Friendship, youth, tears, emotion. Do you really think high school baseball is that romantic? He challenges, his words cutting through their idealism. He doesn't stop there, peeling back the curtain to reveal a world of under-the-table payments and special scholarships. There isn't another high school sport that has so much money flowing through it, he states, leaving his friends to grapple with this harsh dose of reality. Hinoki calls high school baseball a cruel world filled with adults doing shady business. Kano counters, asking why people are moved to tears watching the games if there isn't beauty in it. Hinoki tells them to listen, explaining that he's paid close attention to high school baseball for the past 3 years, weighing the cruelty against the beauty. He concludes that it's not so simple, not as cut and dry as Kano believes. Kano looks on, unable to believe what he's hearing. Their friend intervenes, frustrated that they're fighting just minutes after reuniting. He then confronts Hinoki directly, asking why he suddenly chose DL when he was already committed to Gion Gakuen at the World Championships. Hinoki finally reveals his reasoning. He states that over the next 3 years, it's inevitable that 1 or 2 people will drop out. He clenches his fist, declaring he's here to stop that from happening. With passion in his eyes, he clarifies his goal. He came to DL to ensure that none of his teammates quit. Throwing his arm up in a powerful gesture, Hinoki declares that together, they can go to Koshien 5 times. A flashback begins, showing a younger Kano and Hinoki sharing a dream of playing at Koshien together. The memory continues with a startling event. A truck swerves, and a newspaper article featuring a scandalous photo of a celebrity is shown. The flashback concludes with a powerful image. The 2 boys see an anti-bullying poster featuring a young girl, which leaves a deep, lasting impression on Kano. Back in the present, Kano's resolve is clear. A memory of him and Hinoki playing as kids flashes by as he declares, "I came to DL to play baseball with that white monkey." As they walk, Kano reflects that while it would be amazing to play for 3 years without losing a single person, DL isn't that easy. He acknowledges that only the strong can survive there. Their friend voices his wish for all 18 of them to play together at Koshien. With Hinoki now with them, that dream feels more attainable. A sense of unity settles over the group. With their ace pitcher having arrived, the team is finally complete. All the players have arrived. The scene shifts. On their second day, the first years are gathered for their first practice. A senior immediately lays down the law, telling them they're morons if they thought they'd be allowed on the hallowed grounds from day one. Kano recognizes the eccentric senior as Nagano from the Izumi Red Bulls, but doesn't remember him being so weird. The blonde boy notes that Nagano is at their practices too. Nagano, meanwhile, is acting strangely, pointing and shouting. Nagano gets right in one of the first year's faces, screaming that they are all lesser than earthworms, below bean sprouts. The grueling training begins. Nagano yells at them to do push-ups, telling them to face forward and keep their arms in a 90-degree angle. He even insults them, saying their ugly faces will stop the grass from growing. Exasperated by their hesitation, Nagano yells, "What are you waiting for? Fine, I'll show you how it's done." The first years are already drenched in sweat and look exhausted. Nagano demonstrates the perfect push-up form, emphasizing that posture should be straight from neck to heel. He then gets down on the ground, instructing them to face forward and descend slowly with arms at 90 degrees. He demands to know if they're watching, and they struggle to respond, "Yes, sir," as their bodies tremble. One of the boys whispers that his arms are already shaking as he tries to oppose the force of gravity. With a final, booming command that echoes across the field, Nagano screams at them to push. Nagano declares their attempts as proper push-ups and starts a timer. He tells them it's about quality over quantity and asks if they're satisfied with their previous reps. He gets in their faces, urging them to feel the weight of each repetition. He warns them not to waste a single pitch, swing, or minute if they want to become a regular player. Kano complains that Nagano talks too much, while the senior retorts, "How can you guys play baseball while being this weak? Please start counting already." Below, a DL Walker manual reveals that even DL's basic training is conservative and old-fashioned, designed to strengthen the core and prevent injuries through exercises like trunk lifts and sit-ups. A manual for DL Walker training is shown, detailing a grueling menu of push-ups, sit-ups, sprints, and long-distance runs. Kano, looking completely drained, wonders if all the push-ups he did in middle school were for nothing. Next up is the timed run. The DL Walker Guide explains that for the intensely competitive players, the stopwatch is as scary as a gun, turning a simple run into a fierce race. A senior yells for the piggies to keep up or risk getting cooked. The first years push themselves to the limit, their faces etched with exhaustion and determination as they try to keep pace. Kano is in awe of Nagano's speed, thinking that being just 1 year older makes a huge difference. He realizes his mistake in thinking high school baseball would be a simple continuation of middle school. Instead, it's a massive, unforgiving jump to a new level. He watches Hinoki running effortlessly ahead and notes how fast he is. The grim reality sets in as he realizes he can't even imagine the skill of the third years, and that Hinoki isn't even the strongest player at DL. Kano's frustration boils over. He's annoyed by Hinoki's cool demeanor and his cynical words about baseball echo in his mind. Fueled by anger, he grits his teeth and vows, "I won't lose." A flashback to his earlier conviction. There is beauty in the world of high school baseball, contrasts with Hinoki's present determination to beat him handily in the timed run and shatter his lame ideals. As Kano pushes himself to the breaking point, a sudden twang sound is heard. He looks down in horror to see that his shoelace has snapped. Kano tumbles to the ground, falling hard as the other runners continue to race past him. In a surprising turn of events, Hinoki, who is ahead, suddenly stops and begins running back towards the fallen Kano, a look of concern on his face. Hinoki reaches Kano and helps him up, masking his concern with a taunt. "What are you doing, ugly?" The other players watch in disbelief. Hinoki pulls a stunned Kano to his feet. Kano can only manage to say his name, surprised by the gesture from his rival. Hinoki encourages Kano, telling him his legs are still fine and urging him to go. This act of sportsmanship inspires another player, who declares, "I don't want to lose either," sparking a renewed wave of determination among the runners. The seniors yell at them for the piss-poor theatrics. Hinoki tells Kano, "Nice job, but not good enough," admitting he had misjudged the time and thought he had already won. Suddenly, Nagano's attention is caught by a figure in the distance, and he shouts, "Gibson-san." The poetic-looking newcomer orders everyone to line up. The first years shout a thunderous "good morning" as the coach approaches. A close-up reveals his intense eyes and a tiny, furry creature perched quietly in the grass. The man is introduced as Coach Kaiho Zenichi, the legendary 58th captain of DL Gakuen. With his companion, a monkey, on his shoulder, he delivers a chilling threat. If they take it easy, they'll be tied to a truck and forced to run until they bleed. The players are bewildered by the coach and his pet monkey, Gibson, a tiny pygmy marmoset. Coach Kaiho smirks, saying he's just joking, or perhaps only half serious. Coach Kaiho demonstrates his authority. He orders them to put their feet together, then swiftly swings his bat, stopping just shy of Nagano's head as he commands him not to move. While Kano and the others watch in confusion, the coach puts something in his mouth. In a flash, Gibson leaps from his shoulder and latches onto Nagano's face. Nagano falls to the ground in surprise as the coach expertly catches the returning monkey. He then coldly asks Nagano why he had responded, "Yes, sir," leaving the players terrified and speechless. From a powerful low angle, Coach Kaiho explains his core philosophy. The supreme goal of DL is victory, and the key to winning is to ignore fear and pressure. He continues, stating that all the legendary comebacks DL has achieved at Koshien are a direct result of their strong mentality, forged through intense training. The coach promises to teach them inhuman focus over the next 3 years. He then addresses Marui's departure, noting that one of them escaped from the dorm. He warns them that every day from now on will be hell, but it's the best place to train their spirit. The coach's final words on the matter hang in the air, promising that the hellish experience they are about to endure will ultimately forge them into something stronger, becoming a valuable asset for their future. Kano and his friend exchange a look of shared understanding and renewed determination after the coach's intense speech. The scene shifts to 2:15 p.m. at the DL Gakuen baseball field. The air is buzzing with excitement, and one of the first years can't contain his eager smile. The stands are packed with spectators, a rare sight for a practice game. The blonde-haired boy tells Kano, "We're not allowed to smile, right? But it's too hard not to, Hinoki." The first years are amazed by the large crowd. As some get distracted by the number of girls present, their friend reminds Kano to remember the ironclad code and not to smile. Two players are completely mesmerized by a group of girls, one even commenting he can smell their shampoo. From behind, a mysterious man with a long, thick braid appears, his presence unnoticed. The man erupts, furious at their lack of focus. "Hey, why are you looking at those ladies?" he roars, questioning their discipline and reminding them of their place at DL. He bluntly tells them they are not popular. The first years are stunned into silence, wondering who this strange old man is. They whisper amongst themselves, calling him a black highas, a slang term for shady person. He continues his tirade, asking if they realize how many people are watching them. He points to the field, reminding them that this is the first practice game since the Senbatsu tournament. He details the impressive audience. Behind the backstop are the old fans who have followed DL for decades, and on the first base side are pro scouts and reporters. He then points to the third base side, filled with the DL girls, who are fawning over a player named Furuya. The man watches them with clear disapproval. He grabs a first year by the face, yelling that his loose expression is not a DL face. He commands them not to be affected by their surroundings and, above all, not to show any weakness. Pointing towards the immaculately clean field, toilets, and benches, he declares, "That is our standard. Don't ogle. Respect our guests." The school's motto is visible on the scoreboard behind him. As Kano begins to understand, the man explains his philosophy. "You know how a guy flinches when he sees a perfect woman? If you flinch, you're showing weakness to your opponent. We prepare perfectly to make our opponents flinch." Standing over home plate, he emphatically declares, "And we can never give them that chance. That is DL baseball." He connects this philosophy to their harsh daily lives, explaining, "A disorderly personal life breeds weakness. That's why dorm life is so strict. It's all for the good of DL baseball." Kano watches the man interacting with other students. He finds him strange, but acknowledges his wisdom. The other first years are shocked to realize this is their dorm supervisor. A DL Walker guide introduces him as Dorm Supervisor Bodai Senichi, a former team manager from the 50th class. He yells at the surprised students, "Observing people is part of training, you idiots." In the stands, two reporters, Kuzudaisei and Imoya Asako, comment on the official game atmosphere. They discuss the opponent, ISC Dane, who beat the Senbatsu winners 8-1 last year and have also defeated other powerhouse teams. Kuzu explains that ISC Dane's coach, Akamoto, is renowned for building formidable defenses, making his teams incredibly hard to score against. He predicts that even DL's potent lineup might only score 2 runs. Meanwhile, the ISC Dane players are full of confidence. They notice the female fans and assume they are there for them. One player, tired of his recent fame after being on a magazine cover, boasts that beating DL will get them even more fans. The ISC Dane players look around the empty field, wondering where the DL team is. One of them asks an official if the DL players have arrived yet. They're told the DL players are in the indoor practice facility. The ISC Dane players scoff, thinking it's a dumb attempt at a dramatic entrance. Suddenly, a buzz goes through the crowd as someone shouts that DL is coming out. Overconfident, the ISC Dane players decide to mercy rule them and then go home, completely underestimating the team they're about to face. The first 2 DL players emerge from the tunnel. They walk with a slow, deliberate pace, radiating an aura of immense pressure and intimidation. As the rest of the DL team follows, their collective presence creates an overwhelming aura of pressure. The arrogant smirks on the ISC Dane players' faces begin to falter, their confidence visibly shaken by the intimidating procession. The DL Gakuin players continue their slow, imposing walk onto the field, their synchronized movements and cold expressions creating an overwhelming wall of pressure. The ISC Dane players try to feign confidence, muttering they just look big, this will be easy. Yeah, definitely. But their bravado is clearly shaken. In the stands, a fan laments to her friend Ami that she couldn't give a player her letter, admitting she was too intimidated to interrupt. Watching from the sidelines, Kano's blonde-haired friend can't help but admire the players, a blush on his face as he murmurs, "The uniforms are so cool." The first years look on with a mix of awe and ambition. One declares that he'll be a starter next year, while another realistically notes that it's unlikely he'll even make the bench this year. Kano and Hinoki watch intently from a distance. The blonde boy dreams of wearing that uniform soon, while Hinoki sets his own, much higher goal. This summer I'll be wearing the number 1. Number 10 at worst. The view pans out, showing the entire field poised for the start of the game. Dorm supervisor Bodai Senichi smiles, pleased with the palpable excitement in the air. The crowd is on the edge of their seats, eagerly waiting for the game to begin. From the dugout, Coach Kaiho watches quietly with Gibson on his shoulder. On the field, the catcher signals to his team and calls for them to line up, signaling the start of the game. The DL Gakuen batters line up, their faces a mask of intense focus. The chapter ends on this powerful image, with the team ready to unleash their full strength in the game to come.